Hey everybody, I recorded this video towards the beginning of summer and just never got around to editing it. And I was hoping to get it out there. But in any case, it's never too late. If you've never tried them before, you might want to consider, if you have a garden and you're growing zucchini or pumpkin or any of the other squashes, frying up the flowers and making a snack out of them. Zucchini flowers, pumpkin flowers, squash flowers in general are delicious. They tend to taste a bit like squash, but they tend to be sweeter. They have a slightly sweet overtones. That just works really well when you batter them up, fry them, and just snack on them. You can snack on them, you can put them on some bread, make a sandwich out of them after they're fried up. They're so good and they're so easy. You just pick out a few flowers, you dip them in a simple batter, fry them up, and they're great. In any case, here's the video that I'm finally getting to put up. Okay, to start with, we're going to pick a few flowers here so that we can cook them up. Now, if you look at your zucchini plants, you'll see that the flowers come in a couple different varieties. I have a couple zucchini plants here in planters because I have an inner city patio with my garden. Now this is one of the zucchini flowers that are ready to pick. If you look, it's nice and full. It's already started closing because they stay open only until the morning has passed. And it's on a long stem. Can you see that stem? Now you'll find some of the flowers are on a long stem like this. Other ones, let's come over to this plant. If you look, you'll see this one's attached to a zucchini. Those I generally leave alone. I've never tried picking one. You probably could, but I figured I'll get a zucchini out of it, so let me just leave that one alone. For now, I'm going to pick these flowers. This one's, look at that, it just popped right off. This looks like a good one. Oh, that one I had to pull. Oh, here's one that fell right off. Oh, a couple nice ones back here. Come to Daddy. There is one growing here on a zucchini. I'm going to pull it off. That looks like a good one. And I'm going to keep an eye on that zucchini to see if it had any effect on it. Oh, look at that. That one was trying to hide.
That one was on a zucchini, but it just fell right off. And finally, a couple more. That one came off. This one, I had to break off. Okay, I've got a nice collection here of flowers. Now, if you look at the flowers, see the little star spokes that shoot out? These are the parts here you'll want to cut off, all that little green, and that little green nub, which is the base of the stem. Generally, I found that sometimes they get bitter, so they're not really needed. If you take a little paring knife and just take the very base of the nub off here, and then trim off these green spokes, you'll be good to go. Okay, let's go in and get them cooked up. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is wash them off. Sometimes you may find insects inside of them, and there might be little pieces of dirt here and there. So generally just a little rinsing will do. I just gently go over them, and if you hold the water down so that it fills up like this, they'll open up and you can rinse them out. If there's any little insects, like the tiny little ants or something, this is where you'll get rid of them. Here's all my flowers after I trimmed them. You'll see the little stubs here of the green spikes that I cut off. Okay, now let's make up a quick batter. Okay, here we have the ingredients for basic batter. I don't really have the quantities figured out. It's just very basic stuff. Flour, egg, little milk, salt, dash of sugar, and then a little vegetable oil. Let me put them all in a bowl for you and I'll show you. I start with an egg, and I add just enough milk in, maybe half a cup or so. A little more than however much egg I have. And then maybe just as much flour as the milk. Dash of salt. This is just canola oil. Now all we're going to do is stir it up into a light batter. If I'm stirring oddly, it's because I'm holding my cell phone with one hand and trying to work with only my one other hand. You can see this is a bit on the thin side. So I'll just add a little more flour. Okay, now it's starting to look like it's getting a little thicker. You want basically the consistency of something like a pancake batter. Could be a little thinner than that. If it's a little thinner, what you'll get is a little less of the battering, the coating on top of the flowers. Okay, this looks good. Now let me get the baking powder. We don't really have a whole lot of batter here. I mean, I only used 1 egg, barely a half a cup of milk. So I'm just taking a teaspoon here. You can see it's not a whole lot of baking powder because you don't need much. I'm using baking powder because there's nothing acidic in this batter. If there was something acidic in it, like a vinegar, then you can use baking soda. Baking powder is what makes cakes rise. It'll make the batter a little more airy and give a little more body to the flours. Okay, that's all done. Now let me heat up the pan. Bit of oil for them to fry in. And let's wait a minute while this pan gets nice and hot. Well, before I started, I think I might have neglected to put a little salt in. I don't use a lot of salt, so it won't hurt if I add a little more in case I didn't. Zucchini flowers and pumpkin flowers taste kind of like squash, but there's a very slight bit of sweetness to them. They're a little sweeter than squash or pumpkin normally is. I like to accent that by adding just a little bit of sugar to the batter. It doesn't make the batter sweet, but it adds a hint of the sweetness to it so that it plays off of the flowers. I can smell the oil getting hot, and I probably didn't need to use this much oil at first, but it is what it is. So I'm going to keep it on a medium heat. Okay, my oil is hot. I probably didn't need to use as much as I did, but it is what it is. I just have it on a medium heat. Okay, now I'm just going to drop a couple flowers in. If I poke them by the base, you'll see it's easier to flip them over without destroying them. The actual petals themselves, this area is very fragile. That was a little piston in the middle. You can see the batter's already starting to set. This is my plate lined with a couple paper napkins. Catch up the extra oil. Might have been a little hotter than I wanted because the first side cooked pretty quick. We generally want to make sure the petals themselves will cook quickly, but you want to make sure the base gets heated up enough so that it gets cooked and it's nice and tender. A flour that's very fresh, there might be a bit of a crispness in the very base of it. And if there's any batter that gets into the center of the flour, you want to make sure it gets cooked through so that any batter that finds itself going into the flour gets cooked too, rather than just the outside edges. You can see the orange of the flour starting to peek through a little bit. You can see the orange of the flour starting to peek through a little bit. This one feels a little tender. Oh, good. That side is nice and browned. Might be a little more brown than I normally would go for, but, you know, it's all going to be good. Yeah, I think that's about enough for it all to be nice and tender. So I'm going to transfer them onto the paper towels here. And do up the next batch. Okay, this is funny. Had a little bit of batter left, so I was making 3 pancakes. And at the last minute, I realized I had a whole flour that I didn't cook up, and it was a good one. So while the 3 pancakes were sitting there, I laid the flour down on top of it and flipped the other one onto it. So I have a little zucchini flour pancake sandwich here. Okay, and here we have it. Oh man, that's good.